All right, let's get going, huh? Let's go, gather up. Come on now. All right, fellas, you gotta remember your body is like day-old rice. If it ain't warmed up properly, something real bad can happen, yeah?
Athletes, take your mark. Get set. It's time for the Addict to Athlete podcast. Everybody out there, Coach Blue Robinson here. I want to thank you all so much for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. Greatly appreciate you doing so. As always, jump on to our website, addictathlete.org. Thank you so much. Google playlist that goes, or not Google playlist, but Apple Music that actually gets our website wrong every time now because they put in like some AI robots that dictate all this stuff. And they're sending it to a different addict to athlete. Can you believe that? Yeah. So jump on the website, addictathlete.org, and you'll find all of our backlog podcasts, information about the team, how to start a chapter in your area, and kind of what this all, I guess, means for recovery as we believe that movement equals healing. So as always, on that website, our race tab, the No One Left Behind Team Half Marathon is up for registration. We'd love to have you come out and join us on June 15th, along with a couple of your friends, to start together and finish together. This is a race that kind of represents that no one can do this stuff alone, that we're only as strong as the people we surround ourselves with. And it's a great representation, I guess, of teamwork, of support, to help maybe accomplish a goal that you didn't think you might have had in you. So jump on, be part of that. We'd love to see you out there in June. I have a great guest in studio today. An individual near and dear to my heart. You've heard her for years on the Addict to Athlete Minor League podcast. And we've made some advancements with that because she's no longer a minor leaguer.
I know.
But the roles have reversed. And what I mean by that is typically it's her and I doing a podcast, specifically for, parent and child relationships. And I wanted to bring her on today because, man, she has got a lot of accomplishments under her belt. She's got a lot of experiences that's going to be coming down the pipeline this fall.
Yep.
But before all these changes are made, I wanted to drop in and do a little bit of a role reverse because usually it's her leading the show, but this time it's me. I don't think I've ever sat down with you and done this. I think we've always just had the other way around.
Since like our first episodes.
Yeah.
It's been a
kind
while.
of wild. So I want to introduce to those who may not know, and after you hear her, I'm sure you're going to want to go back and find some of the backlog podcasts of the minor league. But Savannah Jade Robinson, my daughter, who just had some amazing experiences with graduating high school. And I wanted to bring you in today to talk about this advancement. And what I mean by that is a little bit about the relationships, about moving from adolescent to adulthood. It's been kind of an interesting, I think, bridge that you've been making.
It has been.
But let's jump in a little bit, talk a little bit about your accomplishments. I want to talk about, what this transition looks like from adolescent to adult. And, for the listeners out there at large, Savannah, kind of like what these folks might need to know when it comes to preparing, themselves for children to leave, for children to start making their own decisions. Even crazier, we've talked a lot about this in the past with like family systems where addictions kind of, frustrated the growth process. Mm-hmm. And then one day they get clean, they get sober, and they realize how much time they've missed. Yeah. And it's almost hard for them to let go of, their, dare we say, advanced teenage, like adult relationships. So let's jump in a little bit. Tell the listeners a little bit about you. We'll get into to some of your accomplishments, and then we'll talk a little bit about the family systems.
Hi, guys. Like we've said, I'm 18. I just graduated high school with my associate's degree in science. So I double tagged that year, did high school and college all at once. And it's something I'm so proud of. I am
one of 4 people that did it.
Yeah.
In your entire school.
In my entire graduating class, I was one of the very few who got my associate's degree. So that is something I get to strive by from now on. I've loved working ahead in my years. I think we've all talked about that, as I've always tried to be a little more mature than my age. I don't know.
I'm so curious about that because you did not get that from me. Me, I dropped out of high school because I thought school's for dummies, right? I had to go back into my adult life to get my adult high school diploma and then on to college. But I'm curious, like, where did that come from? Because, there's that inner drive of like, I want to do this. But for you, what made that decision? Because you put the hammer down and you put a lot of work into that.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? Because you didn't get it from me.
I think a lot of it came from, I've loved being good at just one thing. And I grew up with a lot of friends who are really, really good at sports or really good at one specific hobby. And for me, that I always used to say, like, I'm really good at talking to people. And that used to not be like a very cool thing when I'd have friends who were like getting scholarships for doing amazing in sports. And so for me, I decided that if I wanted to get anywhere in life that was going to be paid for, I could feel super accomplished. Although I loved growing up swimming, I knew that that wasn't going to be my leeway in. And I decided that I was really good at school and I really liked school. So I put the hammer down when it came to school, and that's what I just focused on. And I worked really hard for it. And it's something I can say I'm so proud of now.
It's amazing, Savannah. I mean, just looking at that pamphlet of everybody that was graduating, and you had a very competitive class. I mean, everyone had at least some kind of accolade next to their name. But when I noticed that you were one of 4 that did that, I was kind of like, wow, it's more special and unique than even I thought. I thought there'd be more people that went for that. But, and it's kind of been a cool thing to watch, like you kids as you guys grow up. I mean, a lot of our podcasts and some of the social media and some of the videos you guys are watching are coming from Savannah's older sister, Brooklyn, who's editing this podcast right now. Yeah. Thanks, Brooklyn. You've got this niche. The boys are kind of coming into their own way of being. And I think it's kind of it's been a wild ride. But it has kind of put me into a little bit of like nostalgia / like, oh man, these next chapters are opening quick.
I've felt that a lot too. These last few weeks, it's been kind of hard to comprehend how I feel. I've had a couple late nights where I'm just laying in bed, like thinking about how different life is, because I think the only word I can use to describe how I feel graduating and leaving is nostalgia. It's not that I'm sad. Like, there are some sad moments, but I'm not only sad and I'm not only excited and I'm not only scared. So I think the only way to put that right now is nostalgic, because I've never felt this way in my life before. And I'm so excited for these next new chapters, but it's something that's completely new, and it's going to be so exciting to see how it goes from here on out.
The other day, Mom was looking through some kind of photo album. I don't know if it was online or whatever, but she pulled out this picture of her and all of her family. And, Oma and Opa, right? Yeah. Up there, front and center. And Mom leaned over and she's like, we are right now the same age as my mom and dad were in this picture. Ugh. And I'm like, holy crap. Because, to me, it was kind of like, this is all going incredibly fast.
It's going so fast.
And then on Sunday, we were looking at some of those blog books Mom put together and how hilarious those were. And it seems like a snap of the fingers, and here we are. For those of you guys that maybe have seen the Netflix show, is it Haunting of Hill House, right? It's a pretty scary show, but there's one representation in this show that really gets me choked up when I talk about it. And without giving too many spoilers away, the family has gathered because one of their siblings has passed away as an adult. And the dad shows up, and there's a lot of dysfunction in this home.
Seen a lot of the family in a while.
Mm-hmm. And the dad walks in, and he sees all of his adult children kind of bickering and fighting, and they're kind of chewing on dad because he's been kind of removed and all this kind of stuff. And first of all, the movie's amazing because this whole first part of this hour-long show is one continuous shot.
This episode is done in, it's over an hour-long episode, and it's done in 3 takes. It's incredible.
Yeah. So there is a lot of camera panning and movement, but there's no cuts. And the dad's standing there, and as the camera's swinging around, he sees his adult children kind of quarreling and fighting and just kind of there. And it swings around and shows the dad, and it comes back. And when it comes back around, he sees his children as their younger selves.
Oh, it's so cool.
Because that's still kind of how we see you guys. And so when I saw that, man, it just hit me because I'm like, even in my phone with you and Brooklyn, everybody, your pictures, you're all I've got your kid pictures in there.
8 years old.
Just because that's what I put in when I got my phone.
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, man, that went by so fast. And it got me thinking a little bit, Savannah, about childhoods and about how important it is to understand the complexities, the responsibilities, the aspects of what being a parent is. Mm-hmm. And growing up in a situation like that, I would like to say that you had a great childhood. I mean, there's turbulence, ups and downs, but more good than bad, I would say.
100%.
And I got thinking, how many out there didn't realize that their childhood comes and goes so fast? And like Ferris Bueller says, if you don't stop and take a look around, you might miss it.
Miss it.
When you look back at childhood, right?
Yeah.
And you think about like, yeah, we did. Do you truly feel as though like those boxes were checked? Was there anything that was left behind that you're like,
there's
man?
nothing undone. I mean, from the summer nights of having barbecues with the family in the backyard to you guys being at work and all of the neighbor kids coming over and jumping on the trampoline with the sprinkler underneath it, or our family parades and the fireworks, like reading about those in those blog books made me want to cry again because I miss all of that. Or like the first day of kindergarten or after the last day of school, walking to the gas station and getting a treat and coming home to all the new fun summer toys. Or I remember playing in like the front yard with you while mom was inside making hot chocolate in the winter and building snowmen and then coming inside to get cooled off. Like it was the most ideal childhood I could have. And I remember like I talk with friends all the time and I know we weren't always in the best financial state growing up and I never would have known. We had such a good childhood to the point that there was nothing I could say I missed out on and there was nothing I could say distracted me from my childhood. And I'm so incredibly grateful for that.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I think we made do with a lot less, and it's been kind of an interesting thing because one promise I made myself growing up in the most dysfunctional home I could probably experience was that none of that happened for me.
Yeah.
And I remember when Mom and I were first dating, we went to Southern California with Jerem, Uncle Jerem, and we were down there, and I remember seeing the ocean for the first time as an adult. I'm like,
yeah.
wow, look at this. I'd see my friends, they'd come back with like shirts like Venice Beach and whatever. I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did you get to Venice Beach? Like, dude, you go on an airplane. I'm like, an airplane? What do you mean? Like
Yeah.
those things, people are in, like, I had no idea about that stuff. And I remember making myself a promise. I don't think I even told Mom about this till years later, but I made a promise to myself that you guys would all see that multiple times before you were an adult.
Yeah.
And then we took you there and I dropped you in the ocean on accident.
And
remember?
then I cried.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? And I look at that kind of stuff and I think, yeah, we had those things. But it got me thinking again a little bit about those family systems. When we first started Addict to Athlete 13 years ago, you guys were all just teeny little squishy things. You've grown up with this program. You've grown up being a part of it. You've helped out in so many different ways. I mean, like I said, there for quite a while before you started going for your associate's degree in school.
Yeah.
You were a regular on the Minor League podcast, and it was kind of an incredible thing. Service is a huge aspect of recovery.
It is.
But we asked a lot of you guys, a lot of you kids, and we made you that promise years ago that if Addict to Athlete ever got in the way of family interactions, of family governance or what have you, that it would end abruptly. And so realistically, I think the success of this team has come off of you and your siblings' willingness to allow us to do this. You probably have so many memories of this team because it's kind of all you've known for 13 years. I mean, it's a significant portion of your life. Yeah. When you look back now and you're like, man, this is just kind of a way of being, what have you noticed about the addictive population, the people seeking recovery, the folks that we've served? Give me some of you, from your perspective, how you've seen it.
Growing up with this program has been amazing. But one thing I think is that growing up, I used to think that this was going to end in a sense because I didn't have the idea that there's always going to be someone struggling. And so for the longest time with the original members of the team, I thought as soon as they get better, it's over. And as I grew up and started realizing that that's not how addiction and recovery works, I realized that this is going to be kind of a forever service thing and that it was important that we let you and Mom serve out of your inconvenience and that we needed to be okay with it because there's other people who need that service consistently in their lives. I mean, we grew up doing those 5Ks every morning, getting up early on Saturdays to go run for the team, or late Tuesday meetings when Mom couldn't leave us home with a babysitter and we'd go and mess around in the building, or I'd get stuck in the elevator at the county building. Things like that always happened. And although it used to be just like a fun playground to go hang out with, it wasn't until I think I hit about the age 12 or 13 that I started kind of really realizing what you guys were doing with this program. And it is one of my favorite things when I get to tell people when they ask like what I do for work and I explain that I kind of work for you guys and do some stuff here. I love explaining that we were a nonprofit and I love talking about the history of it and how we've gotten here because we have put in so much work. I mean, I don't think people understand how much service we really do. It doesn't really look like a lot from the front sometimes, but from behind the scenes, now that I help work with you guys too, it is a lot that we are consistently doing.
I'm glad you say that too, because I don't think a lot of folks understand how much time goes into this. I mean, even yesterday, Memorial Day was yesterday, and we had a lot of athletes that were out here running in American Fork, Utah, which is just a few miles north of where the home base office is. And we, my mom and Brooklyn and Camden and I, we drove to Vernal, Utah, which is about 170 miles away. It's about a 3-hour drive because it's back roads. And then we made the horrible decision of coming down Highway 6, which is synonymous for accidents and for traffic jams. We got caught in a traffic jam for about another hour and a half to go 15 miles.
Ugh.
Yeah. In fact, someone was driving on a car or a motorcycle or something, and they were filming the whole thing going up the canyon. And you can see us in the, I'll show you. They got a picture of us in there too. Yeah, it was kind of funny. But that means that Memorial Day weekend where we could have been home with family, we spent a good 12 hours
out serving.
Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a crazy thing when you look at it that way. I mean, to the people that participated in the 5K, they saw an hour and a half of being there. But you in Boston were both at home. We were all gone. And so you sacrifice just as much as we do. And I don't think some of the folks understand that. They get in a situation where they hear the word nonprofit and they think you can have zero income.
Yeah.
You must not have anything.
Yeah.
And you must give everything away. Now, that's not what a nonprofit is. We are a nonprofit. We're not a charity, although we do a ton of charity.
Probably do more than we need.
You've seen this. I mean, from the shoes that have come in that we've distributed out, from the time that we put in, the helping of people to get into treatment.
The donations, all of it.
Sub for Santa, Project Alpha and stuff. And I think that if people truly understood how much time this has truly taken, they'd probably have a different thought process.
They would. I
mean, what do you think of that? Because I mean, really, for what we've created, it's all been off the back of time. And was it well spent? Was it, did we come up short? You think about that. It's the only thing that we can't save. We can't block. It's going to come no matter what, right?
Yeah.
There's been 13 years of significant time that's been taken away from, I think, family life.
Yeah.
But have you noticed it being a negative or positive or just a thing?
It's not been negative. It's been more positive, if anything. I mean, we've grown up learning what service is and the benefits of it. And now it's something I choose to do in my day-to-day life and something I'll continue to do even when I leave for college here in a few months. There's nothing, although there has been times where you guys are out really late on a Tuesday night because you're still talking to individuals after meetings, or you're here working late on editing a podcast, or you have to get up early to come into work to meet with clients, whatever it may be, it's never been looked at as in a negative light because I know what you're doing is helping someone else. I mean, I was even talking to some friends yesterday when they were asking about what kind of career I want to go into, and I've chose to go into nursing, and they were asking what kind of encouraged that. And I said, I think it's just the culture I've grown up in. I've grown up with 2 parents who are therapists, and I've watched every single day as you guys have served countlessly, and you guys don't even get paid for half of what you do. If I'm being completely honest, in a job like nursing is 100% I'm serving people day to day, and it's not an easy job, and getting there isn't going to be easy, but it's something I get compensated for. You guys are doing a lot more than what I might even end up doing, and you guys don't get half the pay for it. And that's just because you do it out of your heart, and it's the selflessness of it all. So I think that it's been a huge positive outlook, at least for me, because it's really encouraged how I view life and service and other people.
So on that topic, then, let me shift gears just briefly. You have grown up in this program, so you've understood now kind of what addiction is. I think that the Robinson children have a very unique window into what this really is and what it really isn't.
Yeah.
I'm curious because, and again, we didn't prep for this. We're just kind of jumping cannonball style into this conversation. I want your own personal thoughts on how you view addiction, people with addiction, and kind of what you've learned over the years about what the outcomes typically look like.
For me, I used to think growing up that addiction only affected people who were older. And I'm going to be completely honest, I was so blindsided, even going into high school, at how many youth struggle with addiction. But I think because of Addict to Athlete, I have never looked at people who struggle with addiction in a negative light. Never looked at them as anything other than human and the same people we are, who just have grown up in a different life than I have. And there's been countless situations where I've bumped into people with addiction, or, the crazy people on the street. And I've watched as friends have kind of reacted differently and gotten scared or taken a step back. And that's never been the case for me. And I didn't really realize that until recently. I have friends who struggle with addiction even now. And it's been really weird to grow up and know the background I do, and then watch individuals I've been friends with that I later find out that are addicted to drinking or vaping or drugs, for that matter. And and I've watched as that has never changed my outlook on how they feel. I've had friends who have come to me even after they know that I've found out something, whether it's been personal or whether the whole school knows about it. And for some reason, more than one person always ends up coming to me, and they always ask for my advice, and they just thank me for not looking at them differently. And it's kind of funny that they would even say that, because I've never viewed that as something I would need to explain to them why I don't view them differently. I think a lot of addiction stems from childhood, and who am I to sit here and judge and say, oh, you're a bad person because you grew up with a different lifestyle than I did. That's not how that is for me. And so I think people who struggle with addiction, it's something that I feel bad for, and it's sad, but I don't view them as an addict. I mean, that's our whole philosophy here, is that they don't define themselves as an addict. I mean, I was just watching The Haunting of Hill House again, and one of the youth, one of the boys in the show, he's an addict, and I'm watching it with my boyfriend, and as we're watching it, he's in a 12-step program, and he goes up to get his 90-day chip, and he stands in front of everyone, and he introduces himself, and he goes, "Hi, my name's Luke, and I'm an addict." And I paused the show and I go, see, this is why I hate these kind of things. And I know we talk about it all the time, because I hate that people try to define themselves as an addict. I go, he's sitting there and he's 90 days clean in this show, and he's still defining him as an addict. And that isn't the whole part of his life. There's so much more to someone's life than that. And so, yeah, it might be something that has caused struggle, but it's never something that I would define someone as. And I hope individuals never feel like they need to define themselves by that kind of thing.
It's a hard tradition to break. And it's one of those things when we first started 13 years ago that we caught a lot of flack for, because that was kind of the standard issue tool to be used. And we figured out that there's more than one ways to get there. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you pick up on that kind of stuff, because I view people even more so, I guess, on that level playing field than I do one attribute makes you who you are. Because even moving from an addict to an athlete, that's not the end.
No.
There's still so much more out there, don't you think?
It's all we talk about of who are you? And it's way more than just an addict, and it's way more than just an athlete. If you only have two things that can define yourself, you're not going to get very far.
No, there's so much more than that. That's why these experiences, I think, are so crucial.
Yeah.
Do you think that through the process of growing up and now moving into this next chapter of life, that you can honestly and earnestly say that you're more than just Savannah Robinson, a high school graduate? Can you pull different 100%. Attributes and characteristics that make you uniquely you?
Yeah, one of my favorite things was in seminary this year.
For those that don't know, what's seminary?
Seminary is an outside of it's for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it is held during school hours that you guys can get more of your gospel study throughout the week. And so as I'm sitting in one of my seminary classes, he put up a timer for, I think it was 30 seconds. And he said, I want you to write down as many things as you can that define you. And after 30 seconds, he goes, okay, who has more than 3? Who has more than 5? And at the end of it, I had more than anyone. And it was kind of funny because I sat there and I realized that this is an exercise we've grown up always doing.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I can so confidently say that if someone asks me who I am, I have more than 20 things on my list, I could say.
You know why that is too, right? Why we chose to do that is because that was the question given to me when I first started seeking help was, the therapist looking at me and saying, Blue, you have no idea who you are. And I remember I told you this. I thought that's the dumbest freaking thing. And your mom, when I went back and told her this is stupid and blah, blah, blah. And then when she started to pull those lists of characteristics, beliefs, very concentrated feelings that made her, I was shook because I'm like, wait a second.
I still pull that line even now with people I'm around. I have lots of friends who, I mean, we talk all the time about Erik Erikson's stages of development, and there's that identity versus role confusion. And even though it's only from, I think, age 12 to 18, some of that will still linger over if you don't figure out who you are. And so I've met countless individuals who are older, my age, who have these nights where we're in long talks and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what comes next. I don't know what my purpose is. And as I sit there, my favorite question is, well, who are you? Because if you can define that, then there's a million things, there's a million jobs and a million positions and people you could be. And so I still use that line with friends and family all the time.
Yeah. Well, the next stage is super important, right? The next stage is so crucial as you're moving, and you're on the cusp of that now. 20 to about 45, you go through intimacy versus isolation, meaning that you have intimate relationships, not sexual, but like emotional. Like you can know how someone feels. You can synchronize the rhythm of your heartbeat with another person.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. And you're able to capitalize on that, right? Like things have deeper meaning, or you isolate, you pull away, you withdraw. And that's a very scary period because it's so large.
Yeah.
And it predicates on everything leading up to that. So isolation doesn't mean that you're absolutely alone. It means that you just don't dare get out of that comfort zone.
Choose to stay in your own bubble.
Absolutely. So that's why when you decided that you wanted to go off to college, I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I didn't think that would be, happening. So you're going down to?
I'm going down to SUU in Cedar City, and I'm very excited. I think it'll be a very different experience for me. I worked really hard, so I had scholarship money through a few different schools, and one of my main ones was probably just going to be UVU. However, I wanted the experience to move out. I wanted that
since you were like 13.
I've wanted it. I've talked about this a million times. I think the experience of being able to move out is going to be very, very cool for me, and it'll teach me more of my own independence. Although I could have gone to UVU with the same amount of scholarship money, I would have just been living at home. And I needed to tell myself that I was capable of doing it.
Yeah.
And so even if I'm only out there for a year, or if I'm out there for 2 years, or all 3 years of college that I need left, then it'll be worth it. But if I choose to come home, I choose to come home. But I have that experience, and the fact that I could do it is the coolest thing to me.
Yeah, well, you've earned it. I mean, you've really put in the work and put that hammer down to get it accomplished. And to me, I'm thinking that's just amazing. It is very strange, though. And I think that it's going to be a great challenge for you, but it's also going to be, I think, an experience that if you didn't have the courage to step out of that comfort zone, you'd never be able to experience.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about how sometimes I really want to get out of Utah and move somewhere for a little while. Because there's such a bubble here. But I've met some people recently who are not from Utah, and every time I have a conversation with them, their favorite place they've ever lived, and they've lived all over the states, is Utah because of how friendly it is. And to me, I've always been like, oh, sometimes I just dread it. But I think that just getting out of this little bubble of where I've grown up, I've spent my entire 18 years in this little same
community
20-mile radius. Sometimes I've traveled and I've gotten out and I've driven places on my own, but I've grown up in the same area, and that's been amazing, and I've loved having the stability of it. But I'm very excited to kind of venture out and figure out some of those things for myself now.
Well, I think that's the difference in having that healthy dose of concern fear versus catatonic fear, where it's I've got to stay here. I don't dare go anywhere. Yeah. Right. It's kind of funny. I don't think you've ever had the catatonic fear. Mm-hmm. You're cautious, but optimistic. And I think that you're going to do so well out there. But yeah, I just wanted to briefly have you jump on here, talk a little bit about that relationship between, growing up in this world of addict to athlete, the people that you've met, the heartbreak that we've experienced. I mean, whenever we have a heartbreak on the team, you kids residually feel it. Yeah. We've lost athletes to this addiction, and we've built relationships that'll last forever. Yeah. When you look back at it all, though, and kind of now have this little foundation of people and, what makes them tick. I'm curious, what stands out to you most? I mean, we've talked about this before in all your podcasts. You use the phrase, there are no ordinary moments. Yeah. You still feel like that's a true statement when it comes to this kind of work?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there has been a lot of loss and heartbreak, but I think it's really just prepared us for the world and what comes next. And I think one of my favorite things that I've watched outside of just the work that you guys put in that service is even after the loss of an athlete, the community that we have here is incredible. The people who still come together and they still choose to show up is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, we are worth so much to some people. And sometimes that's something we forget, is that how much we do for people. I don't think that we realize how much they need it too. Like, we've watched as we've lost Carly and some other individuals, and to still watch family and friends show up even on her behalf and to still help out when we need it, or all of those sort of things, is such an incredible thing to watch.
So over the years, I think it's a great way to kind of segue this whole thing. Over the years, you've participated in 1,000,001 things with Addict to Athlete, whether it's getting up at 3 a.m. to go help John Bozon park cars, or it's hiking up to flipping Windy Pass to do an aid station. Remember that?
Yeah.
You've been all over with this. I'm curious, if you look back at everything we've done, what stands out to you the most of like, wow, we've accomplished that?
I think when I come to the Tuesday meetings or just an event, whether our crowd is big or small, my favorite thing is that people still show up, always. And it's, even if sometimes it's a hassle to get people to volunteer for something, because parking cars at 3 a.m. is not fun, or hiking 15 miles round trip to an aid station is not fun.
Windy Pass.
But to watch people still show up and to still join this community we've built is incredible. I mean, we're going on, 13 years?
13 years.
And people still show up. And that's one of my favorite things. Some are original, some are new, but all of it is just, I love that people still want to come, and we want more and more people to keep coming. It's one of our favorite things. And we're trying to get into like new areas of what we can expand now. I mean, we're in like this new chapter too with this 13-year mark. And so we have new things we're starting here, and it's very exciting to watch people come and share their stories and hear their messages.
Some of those new things, we haven't really discussed it yet, but you and I won't tell anybody. But some of the stuff that we're going to start doing, because running's great. Running's kind of the core of what Team Addict to Athlete does, but it's one avenue. And what we're noticing is that not everyone digs it anymore.
No one likes to run that much.
The home-based team, we're going to be expanding. We're going to be doing some triathlon training. We're going to get into some deeper cycling and mountain biking. Yeah. We're going to start doing some community fun stuff with the families by doing some organized like scavenger hunts that Mom's putting together as a rec therapist. Mm-hmm. We're going to start doing some more camping and outdoors and hiking stuff. We're going to do some more like recreational like things like fly fishing. We're going to do a lot more kind of like overall sporting things, not just running.
Anything recreational.
Yeah, because I think now that as we are turning 13, we're getting a little bit more advanced in what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not just going to be gym rats. We're not just going to be, like long distance runners. We're going to expand and really put more emphasis on the home team with the family systems and stuff.
So we want you guys to come. We want to hear your guys' ideas. It's one of our favorite things. If there's something you're good at, we want to hear. I mean, we just had like a women's group the other day who made cupcakes.
Yeah.
We love those sort of things. Like, those are so exciting and fun. So if you guys have ideas and you show up on our Tuesday meetings, or you even send us DMs or whatever it is, we'd love to get you guys more involved as well.
Yeah, this scavenger hunt we're putting together is going to be awesome. Kind of like the Amazing Race and scavenger hunt all in one. It's going to be pretty epic. So cool things on the horizon. Sven, I know you got like 1,000,001 things to do. We're jet setting out tomorrow for your senior trip. We're taking you to Atlanta, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. Not because you were named after that, but it's kind of a cool place to go to, right?
That's kind of our little tradition here now.
Absolutely. So I wanted to thank you just for jumping in here. I know that this will probably be one of the last ones we do for a while, because you're going to be full throttle. Ooh. But man, I want to thank you for all the volunteerism you've done for Team Addict to Athlete. You've definitely helped a lot of people. I refer to the Minor League podcast more than I do Addict to Athlete podcast, to be honest with you. So thank you for all the efforts you put in there. Final thoughts.
Like always, there are no ordinary moments.
Athletes, you've been well fed. Jump on addictathlete.org. There you go. Apple, Addict, addictathlete.org. I got to spell it out now.
Or else they're going to throw us off with Apple.
They say AI. Addict with the number 2 athlete, and that goes to a whole different program. So we don't want to mix those guys up. They're doing their own thing and they're doing great. But nonetheless, jump on the website, check it out. We'd love to have you guys be part of the No One Left Behind Team Half Marathon. And until next time, do your best, turn your mess into your message.